Left hand. Right knee. Right elbow. Left elbow. Left knee. Right hip. Left hip. Okay, we're going to do it a bit faster, okay? Get your partner and do it a bit faster. Some of you haven't got a partner yet. Okay? Is it just to make the partner thing? While we're waiting for others to come in.
She needs a partner. I need a partner.
Okay. Right hand. Left hand. Right hand. Left hand. Right shoulder. Left shoulder. Right hip. Left hip. Okay, the hip is here. Watching some of you right shoulder. Left shoulder. Right hip. Left hip. Right foot. Left foot. Right knee. Left knee. And then when I say back to back, you lean on each other and down. Okay, try it again. Try. Back to back. Okay. Down. Up. She's not leaning very kindly. She's kind of afraid. Anyway, one more time. Right hand. Left hand. Right shoulder. Left shoulder. Right hip. Left hip. Right cheek. One time. Turn around. Do a little massage. 4, 5. Change. 10. Come on. What's your partner? 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 1. Shake hands with your partner. Almost ready to start.
So is that all to last week? We'll have, I think we had several hundred yesterday. We'll find out more towards how to see how to I'll have to look at the software to figure that out. On this, yes, we can. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for being back on time. We're ready to start our breakaway sessions. This session will be sports promoting healthy behavior breakaway, where we'll have our moderators and speakers deliberate more in detail about how sports can be used to promote healthy lifestyles, healthy behavior. So may I please request the moderator for the session, Dr. Monica Arora, to please come onto the stage. We have 3 eminent speakers for this session. Our very own and favorite Dr. Viliami Puloka. Can I request you to please come on stage again? Dr. Hemal Shroff, professor at Impetus University, who's done some research that links physical activity and reduction in diseases. And Dr. Bobby John, who will be speaking now, changing his hat, and he'll also be speaking how sports can promote healthy behavior. Monica, over to you.
welcome everyone for the breakaway session. I'm very happy to have a very eminent panel here, and we will be discussing multiple issues, right from research to what's actually being done in the field. And as the session is pointing that we will be talking about sports promoting healthy behavior. Before we go on to hear about research as well as practices in various settings, we would even want to hear from some of the people who have benefited by adopting some of the recommendations we have been talking about since yesterday. So before we begin this session, I would like to invite two community youth leaders and a young child from the Magic Bus program who would like to share their experiences as to how they have benefited from the recommendations that we are talking about.
My name is Liaquat Ali. I live in North Delhi. मैं इससे पहले स्पोर्ट्स प्लेयर ही था, लेकिन मेरे अंदर कुछ गंदी आदतें आ गई थी, जैसे अल्कोहल लेना, स्मोकिंग। और जब मैं इस संस्था के थ्रू जुड़ा, जिसका नाम मैजिक बस है, इसके अंदर आने के बाद मैंने अपने अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा बदलाव देखा। मैंने अपने आप को बच्चों के साथ जोड़ने के बाद मैं बिल्कुल ही सही हो गया। मैंने शराब छोड़ दी और सिगरेट वगैरह छोड़ दिए, और बच्चों के साथ मिलके स्पोर्ट्स में जाने के बाद आज मेरे पास कम से कम 120 बच्चे हैं मेरे से जुड़े हुए, जिसमें से 80 तो गर्ल्स हैं जो कि कभी मेरे से टच में नहीं रहते थे, मेरे से दूर होते थे, कहते थे भैया तो गंदे हैं, स्मोकिंग करते हैं, भैया के साथ नहीं आएंगे। लेकिन आज भैया के साथ बहुत सारी गर्ल्स हैं, सबसे ज़्यादा गर्ल्स हैं, और बॉयज़ मेरे पास 40 बॉयज़ हैं। और बॉयज़ भी ये था कि पहले सारे हटे हटे रहते थे, आज सब मेरे से बहुत प्यार करते हैं। मैं यूथ के साथ घुल मिल के बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहा हूँ, और इस 3-3.5 साल के बीच में मैंने अपने स्कूल को कोच एज ए कोच के तौर पे तकरीबन 25 से 30 मेडल दिए हैं, गोल्ड और 30 सिल्वर दिए हैं। और अपने खुद के जीवन में मैंने 2 गोल्ड और 1 सिल्वर मेडल मारे हैं, और उसके बस
Thank you very much. We can have the second speaker.
Does anyone need translation? Should I translate
Yes.
what he just said?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so he said he is a sportsman, and he used to play state level sports, national level sports, and he got into alcohol and drug and smoking, and he was not looked up well in the community. And after he came to know about Magic Bus program, he came into the program, and first he started by changing his own behavior. Gradually he quit alcohol, he quit smoking, and now he is, in the last 3.5 years, he's been able to work with 120 children, out of which 80 are girls. And initially no girl would ever come and talk to him because he was looked at as a bad guy in the community, not someone who should be talked to. But now the children, their parents, they have confidence in him that he can lead a group of 120 children, and these children look up to him as a role model, and he has been able to bring gold medals and silver medals for the community with these kids.
सबको मेरा नमस्कार, और सीनियर को, और क्या कहते हैं, मैडम को, सर को। मेरा नाम राहुल कुमार है। मैं भलासवा डेरी इस्लाम एरिया में रहता हूँ, और मेरे पास 32 बच्चे हैं जिनके साथ मैं काम करता हूँ। मैं कुछ स्टोरी अपनी बताना चाहूँगा कि मैं कैसा था और पहले, अब कैसे इन मैचेस से जुड़ के कैसा हो गया। बढ़िया, आप देखिए। बात यह है कि मैं जब 15 साल का था तो काफ़ी 15 साल में हम जैसे काफ़ी मैं लड़ाई झगड़ा क्राइम ये सब में काफ़ी और ड्रग दारू हो गया, ये सिगरेट हो गई, दोस्तों के साथ पीना और लड़ाई झगड़ा और दूसरों को मारना, बस यही काम था हमारा, क्योंकि हमें मालूम नहीं था कि हम किस तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं। और धन्यवाद करना चाहूँगा मैं मैक्सिबस का, हमारे नीरुल भैया का, जो काफ़ी हमारे पड़ोस में रहते हैं, उन्हें ये एनजीओ ज्वाइन की। और मैं काफ़ी जैसे बच्चों को खिला रहे थे ये सब, और मैं देख रहा था कि भैया खिला रहे हैं, और मेरे साथ 10-15 लड़के भी थे, वो भी ताश खेल रहे थे। आपने देखा हुआ जुआ, ताश खेलते हैं, जुआ। उस टाइम मैं भैया को देख रहा फुटबॉल खेल रहे भैया, और फिर मेरे को भैया ने देखा, मैंने भी देखा कि भाई मुझे अच्छा लगा, मैं बार बार खेल रहा हूँ ताश, और फिर देख रहा हूँ इनकी तरफ, फिर मैं खेल रहा हूँ, फिर देख रहा हूँ, फिर भैया को मैंने देखा, फिर भैया ने मुझे बुलाया कि इधर आप देख रहे हो, आप खेलो। मैं फिर खेलने लगा। फिर बात यह कि मैं फिर स्पोर्ट्स में नहीं था, फिर भैया ने मुझे रास्ता दिखाया कि जो तू लड़ाई झगड़े में और ये फालतू चीज़ों में वेस्ट कर रहा है, उसे स्पोर्ट्स में ज्वाइन कर। फिर मैं फिर फुटबॉल में गया, और वहाँ पे भी पैसा बहुत कुछ मांगते हैं, और क्रिकेट में भी गया, उसमें भी पैसा बहुत कुछ मांगते हैं। फिर मैंने एक कैनो आपने सुना होगा, वाटर स्पोर्ट्स गेम वो होती है, उसको मैंने ज्वाइन किया। और फिर मैंने दिल्ली स्टेट में एक गोल्ड एक सिल्वर मारा, और उसके बाद हम इस टाइम एमपी खेलने भी गए थे, तो वहाँ पे हमारे दिल्ली के 11 मेडल लगे नेशनल में। और बस और यही कहना चाहूँगा। अचीवमेंट यह है कि मेरे पास 32 बच्चे हैं, और मैं वो बच्चे काफ़ी कबाड़ा बिनते हैं, जो रोडों पे कुछ लोग भीख भी मांगते हैं और कुछ कबाड़ा बिनते हैं, उनको मैं बुला के अपने घर से उनको बुला के उनको अच्छी सी आदतें सिखाता हूँ। जैसे बहुत बच्चे कबाड़ा बिनते हैं, नाले में हाथ मारते हैं, वो हाथ नहीं धोते, जैसे धोना हाथ नहाते नहीं है और साफ़ सुथरा नहीं रहते, पर उनको इतनी है वैसे कपड़े नहीं है, पर उनको मैंने इतनी अच्छी आदतें सिखा रखी है कि वो वैसे कपड़े वही है, पर वो नहा धो के फ्रेश होके साबुन से हाथ धो के खाना खाते हैं, और अच्छी अच्छी आदतें सीखते हैं। गाली ग्रोथ बहुत करते हैं, और कुछ लोग तो स्मैक और सिगरेट हो गया, और बस यही। थैंक यू।
This is Rahul. He is a community youth leader in the Magic Bus program. He comes from the Balaswa Dairy slum community. He shared his life story. Till he was 15 years old, he had gotten into antisocial activities and crime and beating up people in the community and getting into fights. And he got into gambling, and whenever there was something negative to be done in the community, all the friends would get together and get into some trouble somehow. And then one day he saw his youth mentor Imran Nirmal take the sessions in the community, and he was excited while he was playing cards and gambling with his friends, and he saw that there's something else happening in the community, and he was intrigued by it. And then Nirmal called him, and then he asked him to come and join the Magic Bus program. And he told us about his journey from being that person who was involved in alcohol, smoking, gambling, crime in the community, to becoming a person who's now looked up as a role model. Due to lack of money, he couldn't get into the elite sports, and finally he got into kayaking and canoeing sports, and he's won medals for the state in the state and national level sports. That's his journey. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Rajesh. Can I also invite Arjun, who is a child in our Magic Bus program. His journey is still on. There are more miles to be achieved. Can you come and share your story till now? Arjun.
गुड मॉर्निंग सभी को। मेरा नाम अर्जुन है और मैं 9th क्लास में पढ़ता हूँ। आई लिव इन मदनपुर खादर। और मैं अपनी मैजिक बस से जुड़ने से पहले अपनी ज़िंदगी के बारे में बताना चाहता हूँ। पहले मैं स्कूल तो जाता नहीं था, मैं स्कूल के बहाने डैम पे चला जाता था, और वहाँ पर नशा करता था, बीड़ी पीता था, सिगरेट पीता था, तम्बाकू खाता था, अल्कोहल, गोला, गुटखा और पान ये सब खाता था। और मैं कभी स्कूल जाता ही नहीं था और ना मम्मी पापा की बात मानता था। इधर उधर अपने दोस्तों के साथ कहीं भी जाकर मतलब नशा करता था। एक दिन मेरे ट्यूशन में कोचिंग सेंटर में ये भैया खिला रहे थे, मोहन भैया, रवि भैया। तो मैं उनको देख रहा था बार बार गौर गौर से। तो मोहन भाई ने बोला कि तुम हमारे साथ खेलोगे? तो पहले मैंने बोला नहीं। उसके बाद फिर मैंने बोल दिया था हाँ मैं खेलूँगा। तो मैं खेलता गया, मुझे बहुत मज़ा आ रहा था। तो उसके बाद मोहन भैया ने बोला कि तुम्हें संडे को गैस प्लांट में भी खेलने आना है। तो मैं वहाँ पर भी जाने लगा रोज़। और तो मैं खेलता था फुटबॉल और हैंडबॉल, तो मैं बहुत जल्दी हाफ जाता था, थक जाता था। तो मैंने मोहन भाई को बोला भाई मैं थक के जाता हूँ। तो उन्होंने बोला तो क्या करता है? तो मैंने अपनी सारी बात बताई। तो उन्होंने समझाया ये सब गलत बात है, ये सब नहीं करना चाहिए। तो उन्होंने रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी दी मुझे एज अ कप्तान ऑफ हैंडबॉल टीम। तो मेरे को अपने बच्चों को सिखाना भी था और उन्हें ट्रेन भी करना था। और हमारे कम्युनिटी में एक टीम है जो कि 5 बार टूर्नामेंट हुए हैं और वही हर बार जीत कर गई है। तो इस बार हमें जीतना था। तो हम लोगों ने एक टीम मतलब मेरा कॉन्सेंट्रेशन पूरा उस टीम पर था, ना कि अल्कोहल या फिर उस पर। पता नहीं एकदम से ही सारा कुछ छूटता गया, पता नहीं चलता गया खेल ही खेल में। और हमने उस टीम को भी हरा दिया जिसने 5 बार मेडल मारे थे हमारी कमेटी में। और इस बार हमारे नाम हुआ था वो मेडल। हम मैच जीते थे। तो हम लोग नेहरू स्टेडियम भी गए थे जहाँ पे हम सेलिब्रिटीज़ और क्रिकेटर्स से मिलकर आए थे। और मोहन भाई हर एक खेल के बाद उसके लाभ और एक चीज़ बताते हैं कि हमें जेंडर का फ़र्क नहीं करना चाहिए, कभी नशा नहीं करना चाहिए, खेल को अच्छी तरह खेलना चाहिए, हर जने को पार्टिसिपेट करना चाहिए और किसी से चिढ़ना नहीं चाहिए अगर वो भूल करता है। तो हमने इसी बात को ध्यान रखा। लेकिन मुझे अभी भी पता है जब खेल खेलने में नशे की आदत छूटी थी तो एक मेरी गली में डेथ हो गई थी, वो भी नशे के कारण। तो मेरे को अब महसूस होता है कि हाँ अच्छा वो मैंने छोड़ दिया।
Thank you, Arjun. He's 14. Arjun shared his life story. He's 14 years old. He's in the 9th grade. He shared that before a few years, before he came into the Magic Bus program, he wouldn't go to school. He would go out with his friends and smoke and chew tobacco and have alcohol. And he wasn't really serious about what he was doing because there was peer pressure to get into all this. And gradually he came into the program and he started understanding the importance of sports. And it was a conscious decision to leave because he was not able to play because of alcohol and smoking. He was not able to have that much stamina in the program. But his youth mentor gave him the responsibility of becoming a captain and mentoring his own team in his community. And he started his own team in the community, due to which he gradually gave up alcohol and tobacco abuse. And his sole aim at that point was to beat the team which had been winning consecutively for 5 times, and they beat the team. And what he shared also was that he saw a death in his community which was because of substance abuse. And then he also realized how important it was for him to move on from what he was to what he wants to be. And that's his journey, and it still continues. Thank you, Arjun.
These experience sharing, I think, provide an excellent interlinkage between what we discussed in the plenary and what we are going to discuss now, because as Dr. Ajay Mehal's presentation did point out, that sports improves cognition, and here's a live example that it does help in healthy behavior change, not only from the physical activity point of view, but the fact that they have been able to give up addictions, substance abuse habits, and be able to also be productive in contributing to the own development as well as society's growth and development is remarkable. Thank you very much. A huge round of applause for these young leaders. With this, I would like to start our session. We'll start with Dr. Hemal Shroff from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and we will have studies. Funding. You have your presentation?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I think they can change the presentation. Dr. Shroff will be presenting findings of the Magic Bus study.
It's almost afternoon, so almost good afternoon to all of you. I'm going to talk briefly about a study that I did in coordination with Magic Bus. So what we wanted to look at basically was to compare children who are enrolled in Magic Bus programs with those who are not enrolled in the Magic Bus programs, who may be engaging in physical activity of some sort, to see what the differences were in variables like food intake, variables like substance use consumption, as was described by some of the community youth leaders today, and in kind of alcohol use in all of those factors. Is there a way to turn it? Next slide. Yeah. So there has been a lot of discussion on how sport is positive in the sense that it avoids illness. It kind of can promote a lot of well-being and feeling good and health, and there are obviously physiological indicators too that support that. And the literature that has been done on sport and how it promotes healthy behavior, which is to reduce risk-increasing behavior, such as tobacco consumption, such as alcohol consumption, has been done in kind of pockets in some sense. And what really needs to be done is, of course, to have people followed up for a long period of time and to see how there is a change. Just as some of the people from the Magic Bus program have described, whether people give up alcohol after a certain point in time as a result of engaging in physical activity. So that wasn't what we were able to accomplish in the study that we did today, but that's definitely one of the goals, I think, in the future. Next slide. So why sport in adolescence? Why do we talk, of course Magic Bus has programs primarily with adolescents, but why do we talk about it in adolescence? Adolescence is an important age group to target sport because they've reached a stage where, their bodies are, after kind of puberty, their bodies are reaching some amount of stability, more so for girls than for boys. And they're also going through a phase where they're developing their own identity and they're learning how to interact with their peers. And at this stage, of course, they're also engaging in more, establishing independence behaviors, which can be, in some cases, risky behaviors. So, sport in adolescence, actually, a lot of the research indicates that when you engage adolescents in sport, after they have kind of gone through the period of childhood, if you continue to engage them in sport, then it has multiple positive benefits, aside from the non-communicable diseases, which is a very strong connection. It also, in many cases, builds body image. It makes girls and boys feel better about themselves, about their physical appearance. And it becomes a positive habit in many ways. And so the idea of engaging in physical activity itself makes them feel that they should be doing other things that are better for their health and for their well-being. And that would reduce their chances of being sick in any way in the future as well. Next slide. So what were the objectives of our study? One was we wanted to look at the play patterns of the children, both the ones engaged in the Magic Bus program as well as the ones not engaged in Magic Bus programs. We wanted to explore what their food intake was like, the substance consumption patterns as well, to look at the relationship between physical activity as well as food intake and substance consumption, and lastly, of course, to compare all of these variables among those enrolled in the Magic Bus program and those not enrolled. Next. So we had a total of 300 adolescents. The mean age for the entire sample was about almost 13. So we wanted to kind of keep it within a relatively narrow range because we didn't want to go kind of into childhood and we didn't want to go into late adolescence as well.
we had kind of equally divided the sample, so half of the sample was enrolled in Magic Bus and half was not. There were fewer girls, but this division was kind of roughly the same between the two groups that we had. So there were fewer girls in both the Magic Bus program as well as the non-Magic Bus program. And we had 3 sites, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh and Delhi. Next slide. So what were the things that we looked at? We looked at tobacco use, but we didn't just ask them about current consumption. What we did is we asked them if they had ever tried any kind of tobacco product. We asked them if they had tried it, for how long they had tried it, how much they had tried it. Then we asked them about current use. We did the same thing with alcohol. We asked them, have you ever tried alcohol? How long did you try it for? And then we asked them about current use. With play, we asked them what kind of play they were engaged in, who they were playing with, what their role was, etc. The idea of looking at play was to make sure that they were actually, they didn't, kind of characterize things that didn't involve physical activity as play. And then the other things that we looked at were, of course, food consumption. We created a scale of some variables that added up to unhealthy food intake, which included things like whether they were consuming fried food, cakes, biscuits, etc., and sweet drinks, sodas, aerated drinks, etc. Healthy food intake looked at fruits, vegetables, eggs, dairy products, and milk. And the last is that we looked at general variables like age, family income, pocket money. We obviously assessed their height and weight, whether they were currently in school or not, and then if they were in school, what grade they were in school. Next. So what did we find? I'll kind of go objective by objective. What we found was that 264 of the adolescents were engaged in some group physical activity. We obviously expected that more of the adolescents in the Magic Bus program would be enrolled in physical activity. So there were more of the Magic Bus children who were enrolled. And what we found was also that we calculated the amount of time that they spent on the Magic Bus physical activity. So for the Magic Bus children, it was 528 minutes weekly that they spent on some activity. And for the non-Magic Bus children, the mean value was about 348 minutes that they spent weekly. But there was a lot of variation. There were some children who were spending a lot less, so you can see the standard deviation values are actually quite high as well. Next. And this is just to give you an idea of who they played with and what their roles were. So, or kind of what they played. Usually they ended up, most of them described that they were playing with friends. Some of them described their community youth leaders as people that they were playing with, and the other highest category was just other children. The games that they did end up playing were, for the most part, cricket was the highest, and a lot of them used the word players, or that they were members. So the chances are that they were playing football or kho-kho or something like that, although they didn't specify that. Next. Then we looked at alcohol consumption. What happened was that when we started asking about these, we found that the number of children who actually reported ever trying alcohol was quite small, and so we weren't able to do a lot of analysis with that variable. But we did find that there was a total of 7 children who had ever tried alcohol, and out of these only 3 reported current use of alcohol. Most of them had only tried it once. Among those who are currently consuming alcohol, the frequency of use was only 1.5 days a month. And there was no significant difference between the Magic Bus and the non-Magic Bus children in the alcohol consumption variables, either in terms of ever trying it, in terms of frequency, in terms of duration, in terms of current use. There was no real difference. Next. Tobacco was actually a little more interesting because we had many more children who reported ever trying tobacco products, so 50 in total. And how much they had tried it, the average duration was actually 2 months. So they had tried it for more than 1 month, and the average duration was 2 months. More Magic Bus children had ever tried tobacco than those not enrolled in the Magic Bus program. So you had 39 who had ever tried it from the Magic Bus program and 11 from the non-Magic Bus program. Next. But when we looked at current use, there were a total of 19. And in this case, when we looked at current use, that the difference that was there between the Magic Bus children and the non-Magic Bus children was no longer present. Because what had happened was that at some point they must have ever tried, to have tobacco in some form, but then that didn't translate into them currently using it necessarily. So then the difference for both smoked and smokeless tobacco became 4 versus 3 for Magic Bus and non-Magic Bus, and 10 versus 8 for Magic Bus versus non-Magic Bus. Next. And so you can see the graphs. The top graph is the one that talks about tobacco use. So you can see the huge change for Magic Bus children. 39 of them, like I said, had ever tried tobacco, and then when you ask about current use, it was down to 11. And then when you look at the non-Magic Bus children, the values remain roughly the same. So that's just to support some of the things that have been shared earlier. The same was true for alcohol consumption. Like I said, we had 7 children from Magic Bus who had tried alcohol, and then in terms of current use, it had dropped down to kind of 2. And among non-Magic Bus children, again, it remained roughly the same. Next. The last thing we looked at in terms of substance consumption was inhalant use. We had to be a little bit careful about how we asked about this because we did not obviously want to put ideas into their heads. So we asked as kind of generally as we could about whether they used any product to change their mood, to improve their mood. And they used words like gul or solution to describe the products that they were using. 5 children reported ever trying inhalants, 3 reported current use. And the ones who reported current use stated that they had been using it for 2 months. There, of course, with such a small sample, it was really unlikely that we were going to find significant differences. But in terms of sheer numbers, there were actually more non-Magic Bus children who were who were using inhalants currently. But the difference was just 1 child, so there was nothing significant. The last thing we looked at was food consumption. Healthy food intake was roughly the same for the children enrolled in both programs. But unhealthy food intake was much higher for the non-Magic Bus children. So therefore, the children enrolled in the Magic Bus programs ate less unhealthy food. Next. So what did we find in terms of the relationships? Because we've talked about physical activity and whether there is a relationship with all of these variables. It's possible that, of course, just engaging in physical activity makes children and adolescents more hungry. So they just eat more in general. Because we found the differences between the Magic Bus program children and the ones not enrolled, it's the positive idea behind this, of course, is that even if they are eating more in general, they are eating more of healthy food and less of unhealthy food. There was no relationship between physical activity and substance use because, as I described, the numbers were too small for us to find any kind of significant relationship. Next. So just to summarize, what we did find was that the children not enrolled in the Magic Bus programs ate more unhealthy food. More children from the Magic Bus program had attempted using tobacco or had consumed it in some form. But the number of current users was not very different between the 2 groups. The pattern of use in tobacco was found to be similar as that for alcohol. And the number of adolescents who had ever tried inhalants and those currently using them were approximately the same. Like I said, there was just 1 more child in the non-Magic Bus programs. Based on this, what do we conclude? There is a connection definitely between engaging in physical activity and other health-related behaviors. Engaging in physical activity helps individuals make better choices in terms of not engaging in substance abuse and eating better. I think that we couldn't say it with kind of complete conviction because we don't have a large enough sample probably. But if we had a larger sample, I think we would be fairly positive in making that conclusion. Last. And so what does all of this mean for non-communicable diseases? If adolescents do attempt to try tobacco, they do try to consume alcohol, but if they engage in some kind of physical activity and if it is an organized program like Magic Bus offers, then the chances are higher that they will not continue that use of a substance, which in the long run is obviously better in terms of avoiding any non-communicable disease. In terms of the Magic Bus programs, I think probably that they would need to establish some baseline and kind of follow-up data to follow these children over a longer period of time to look at what kind of substance use and food intake patterns there are at the beginning of them enrolling, and then what happens after 1 year, 2 years or more of being enrolled in the program. And in terms of future research, like I said, we would probably want larger samples, we would want more longitudinal studies. We would want to look, from a process point of view about what it is about being enrolled in the Magic Bus program, as has been described earlier right now, whether it is having the mentoring from, kind of an older person, or whether it is that certain children who are, have certain kinds of personalities in some sense, might engage in risky behavior to begin with, and also might be more likely to come into, an organized physical activity program. So whether there is that kind of relationship also is something that can be investigated. It's not a negative thing. It would be positive if you are able to, kind of engage children who are on a trajectory for high substance use consumption and intervene and prevent them from engaging in more substance use, and obviously as a result prevent non-communicable diseases. Also improve their food intake. So there are a number of studies that could be done in terms of future research. And I think all of them would provide more evidence for sport promoting healthy behavior. Thank you.
I'm sure there are questions from the audience, but we'll hold on to the questions so that we have our other two speakers talk, and then we can have some questions during the question-answer session. So I would like to invite Dr. Puloka to share his views about how youth and sports can help by promoting sports among youth and avoiding the NCDs in their later lives.
Thank you very much. And I see you're not smiling. Someone said today that physical activity improves your beauty. And it's because when you smile, you strengthen those muscles, those wings. So, can you smile at the person next to you? Thank you. I think this is really, I only have three things that I want to leave with you. Is a thought that I want to drop in for us to discuss. The first one is that big is beautiful. FAT is not. Someone just asked me during morning tea, you come from a country where you have very big people and good rugby players. We have rugby players in France, in England, in the All Blacks, in the Australian team. You go to any country, you will find a Tongan there, even though we're a very small population. And he said to me, if you are, surely those rugby players, their BMI are way over. And it's a fact. The All Blacks, the best rugby team, or one of the best rugby teams, next to Tonga. All the players are obese by BMI. My message really, if you have a scale, you go home today and throw it away. You do not do physical activity to lose weight. That's a wrong motive. And it will give you a headache. Because the scale doesn't tell you exactly your health. Actually, the inner fat, if you weigh, the best way is that, like me, the size of my belt, the size of my trousers is a better measure of my health rather than what's the scale. The scale is go up and down. So, the size and shape is not very, very important when it comes to health. I mean, it matters, but these educated guys will tell you more details about it. But my point is, you see how well your clothes fit you. You step on the scale and you still have the same weight, or maybe even heavier. Because the fitter you are, you lose the water, and then you burn the fat, and you develop the muscles. And the muscle is heavier than the fat. Thus, all the rugby players are obese by using BMI. So I'm just message to you, don't worry too much about what the scale is telling you. Throw away your scale. You know how well your shirt fits in, even though the scale. So that's my message number one. Don't worry about the size and shape. Message number two that I want to leave with you is that someone said, I don't know who said this one, but he said this, physical activity or whatever you do, what is important is the life that adds to the years rather than years that add to life. It's quality, not quantity. If you want to exercise because you want to live long, that's a wrong motive. Actually, you may not want to live long. Life is pretty rough. Maybe you don't want to live long. But if you live a short life, but full life, quality life, that's what we should aim for. The last point that I want to mention, I want to encourage all of you to be selfish. I know it's against the Bible and all the teaching, but I think you cannot begin to love your wife, your loved ones, your children, or somebody else unless you love yourself. We find it in our work in the Pacific, trying to encourage people. The lady was just touched about the body image. One of the most depressing things, and it's causing people to go to the extent and do something ridiculous because they want to look beautiful. I'm encouraging you, yes, it's okay to look beautiful with the outside, but what's the inside is really what matters, because that's where it will spring out. It will motivate you and it will direct you to do the right thing. So if you are thinking that you are, as a youth, of course, you know, there's all of a sudden these hormones and chemicals and things. You don't know what happened and you behave like crazy, you know, when you see a young lady or when you see a young man. That's natural and that's okay. And I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about the fact that if you are using physical activity just to look beautiful, you might end up in a very... And one of the saddest things is that for all of us, especially those who are working in the health sector, the health promotion and things like that, we think that we sacrifice ourselves and we do everything for everyone else but ourselves. Our mothers, I think we learned it from our mothers, and I think this is one of the problems that we are facing, because they eat the leftover food and they don't look after, and once they get married, maybe the husband don't want them to look beautiful, they don't dress up very nicely. But my point is, unless you yourself do something, be kind to yourself. And it's good to be selfish and do something good for yourself. Unless you do that, it will be very, very difficult for you to encourage others to do the things or to carry out the message that we want to give them. I think those 3 points I want to just drop it with you to think about it as well. Big is beautiful, fat is not. Forget about the scale. And quality, not quantity. It's the years in life. It's the life that you add to your years, not just live long. And be kind to yourself and keep on smiling. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pulaka. We have our next speaker, Mr. Bobby John, who will share his views on sports and youth.
Well, thank you. I'll pick up from where Dr. Pulaka left. The organizers harangued me for slides, and I have 4 slides, including the title one. I'll run through them very quickly, but really where he left off, and I had kind of jotted down my own thoughts around how do we take this session forward. The last bit, I mean, he had already mentioned during the plenary, put on your seatbelt, put on your mask first, because if you aren't alive, you're not going to help other people be alive. We are a bunch of do-gooders out here in this room. Sorry, plain talk. This is not plenary session. This is not very formal. We are talking among friends. Somewhere along the line, there's this notion that fun, pleasure, are really selfish notions. They're all about you, and if it's selfish, it's not good, it's taboo. And the moment you take fun or pleasure out of something, you do what I used to do a long time ago, which is write prescriptions. It's good for you. Here, take 4 pills, or here, run 5 miles. It becomes something that you adhere to. It's a set of do's and don'ts that might be good for you, but have been robbed of the element of fun or pleasure. And the moment we strip that out of the core set of activities that we want people to be engaged in, it becomes drudgery. Anything that's drudgery is to be shirked off, is to be postponed, is to be hated. Mind you, I was trained as a physician, but over the years I've been teaching myself to think in terms of how do you communicate something? How do people receive what you've prescribed? Is it going to be something that's taboo to them? Or is it going to be something that is going to be drudgery to them? Or is it something they're going to willingly say, yes, that's what I want to do? And thank you for affirming my thoughts, my desires. Nobody, none of us in this room or outside want to be ill any day of our lives. But the way we wrap our communications, the way we wrap our messages, the way we get our scientific research, the way we put our evidence together is so unappetizing, the other side pukes at it. They don't want to do anything with it. So yes, health is a state of physical, mental, social well-being, and I have a WHO representative nodding his head away because that's the official definition. My first slide, please. Yes, we want all 3 states of well-being. Next slide, please. I'll run through all of them. We have to counter the downside of physical inactivity. We need to make sure that there expenditure that we have per day. We also have our food industry to kind of partially take the rap on it, on how we pre-package and pre-digest food so that it's not quite slow release anymore. It's fast release, rush of energy and glucose into the system. It promotes a certain metabolic pathway that's not very helpful for us. Let's take it for a fact. I mean, it's fashionable in this country today to blame the current Prime Minister for all else. I'll blame one more thing on him right now, the current trend of large for date babies in first-time pregnancies. If you're going to look at it cohort by cohort, any girl, any woman who's getting pregnant at the age of between 18, 21 or 21, 24 right now is tending to show larger size babies and also a higher predisposition towards pregnancy-associated diabetes mellitus. It's a stress test. That's alarming. And I believe there's something that we need to do, thinking through what kind of quality of food basket is for those that are growing up right now. There's the calorie expenditure and the inactivity that's along with it. Kids who do not get enough calories or who get the wrong kind of calories have got a different trajectory of development altogether. We know that, and there's a growing body of evidence that something needs to be done around it, and particularly as children move away from open fields or open grounds into sanitized, closed enclosures, 10 by 10, nannied by absentee parents, you get children that are developing very, very differently. Immunity is different, body mass indexes change rapidly, and you end up with girls earlier into menarche, boys with aggressive behavior, and you have no coping mechanisms either for physical assault on your body or for mental coping mechanisms. Most of you have seen the enormous impact of the lungs, the picture of lungs on tobacco products. Lungs filled with tar. And that's had an enormous impact on how people perceive the impact of tobacco on their lungs. My next slide, please. 20 minutes of activity, and that's what the brain looks like. in a pre-adolescent. Tells you a lot about how activity enables executive capabilities in children or in adults. Walking to school is probably a good idea. But if you're in a city like Delhi, sending your children to school on an air-conditioned bus is probably a sign that you've arrived. And somewhere along the line, we have misplaced values. What is good is no longer useful or no longer seen to be matters of status. What are matters of status are not actually good. If you're going to talk about sport, we need to talk about activity. We need to normalize activity into our daily lives. And we need to bridge that notion between fun and public good, fun and personal well-being, fun and sport, and not equate sport with earnings, sport with status, but sport as a mode of engagement. Arjun's story brought tears to my eyes. I asked for his age. My son is 13. My daughter is 16. When he began getting into a mode of fun, he found role models. When he found role models, he had engagement. When he had engagement, he moved on to responsibility. I want to kind of put that continuum out there for each one of us to consider. We can push sport for good as much as we can, as much as we want, but that will be in the nature of a prescription. True, prescriptions are required. But how do we make sure that hundreds of millions of children and adults are able to walk the trajectory of fun, engagement, and responsibility and lead healthy, full lives? Healthy, full lives could correlate with longer years. Even if they don't, it's a good in itself. And I hope we think along those lines.
Before we go on to the Q&A session, to see how much time we have. We have 15 minutes to discuss. Thank you. So I would like to thank all the three speakers. Brilliant presentation of study conducted by Dr. Shroff, and then hearing views from Dr. Puloka and Dr. John. We would like to also talk a bit about that we don't need research and evidence for moving every bit on the recommendations. Some things are sheer common sense that need to be adopted. And hearing from the Magic Bus experience as well as other research, I would even like to talk about some of the recent work undertaken by one of my PhD students where they use the technique of yoga, simple breathing in the community, and they help people quit tobacco by those breathing exercises. So there are innovations within India itself, our own Indian way of living and how we have changed over the years. How the globalization and urbanization has impacted our health, and it's US which is adopting the yoga way of life. We have celebrities from Hollywood coming and learn yoga in India, and whereas we in India have yoga in every park which is offered free of cost, and not many of us benefiting from that. So with that, I would open the floor for question and answer sessions, and we can pass the mic along if there are questions in the audience. We can, do we have a mic to start? Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rashi, and I used to be a tennis player myself till a few years back. So the question I want to ask is, in India, there's a certain strata of society, the urban middle class, where the parents are educated and they know all these benefits about sports, but they still consider sports a very frivolous activity in India. Like as soon as you reach class 9th or 10th, before that age, your parents are always pushing you out to go and play, and suddenly you become 14, 15. and they want you to stop every kind of physical activity and to sit in rooms and prepare for competitive exams or just study. So how do you reach this straight of society and tell them sports is important?
Would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I have a daughter that's 16 who's going to go to her 10th standard boards in a couple of weeks. Balancing out the choice between getting her out of the house and academic performance, I think it was 2 years ago that the CBSE board director was at one of the Magic Bus conferences, and where the conversation was around how do you strike a balance between academic assessment and encouraging the incentive for physical activity. And I think if done right, the way the curriculum has moved on to assessing it right through rather than pushing everything out to a single exam is a good step in the right direction. That's only by way of a policy push. It has to be much more than that as we communicate with parents. The downside to physical inactivity among adolescent children, both boys and girls, is something that we need to better package and put out there. Most of these parents are extremely conscious about health. Health in this case meaning sanitized, pre-packaged doses of things that can be bought. How do we repackage that and show that that which is free, that which is not so sanitized is still healthy? Is it a challenge not just merely for doctors, but a larger sociology, communications, anthropology challenge than a simple one where we say, here, activity is good for you. It will require more people than there are in this room. It will require the admin of this world who sell colored water for enormous amounts of money to be talking that language. And unfortunately, I don't see that kind of talent in this space at this point in time.
Thank you very much. We have another question.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am myself Dr. Vivek, and first of all, I'll congratulate all the speakers over here for a nice talk. Well, I'm not over here to just want to make a comment rather than asking a question. Actually, I'm a research scientist. I'm from Jitmar Hospital in Pondicherry, and we are doing research in many fields. One of the fields is adolescent health. So what Ms. Rashi has just asked, that question we also wanted to ask about it, because the adolescents is nearly 25 to 30% of our population is obese or overweight. And it is not limited only to the urban population, it has gone deep inside into the rural population also. So we wanted to see the effect of structured physical activity according to the highest standards. And we knew that we cannot reach out to the people if we go with hi-fi instruments over there. We designed our work in such a manner that we don't need any money, like using for the giving isometric exercises and other things. We can give the tug of war, we can use skipping rope and all. Along with that, we did the American College of Sports Medicine structuring. And another was what Dr. John was also saying, and Sir was also saying, talking about the fun part of it. We gave unstructured physical activity to the students. They all are resident students. It was an inter-institutional study. And the baseline, we have not analyzed completely. The baseline study, what it says is that even if you give them the opportunity and you leave the instruments and the simple tools and you just make them, monitor them, but let it be unstructured, they are all the physiological. We tested all the things, anthropometric, their chest and how their lungs are working, how their heart is functioning, how they are having their academic performance. Along with that, how is their stress level and how much they are responding to the studies. Ultimately, what our preliminary findings are saying is that, in fact, if you just give them the time and you leave them the things, unstructured physical activity, which involves more of fun, lesser of exercise, the students, all their parameters are as good as anyone else. So if we just design the basic modules in which we can give them some sort of structuring to them and we can motivate them to spend some time on field, that itself will help a lot of students in coming out of morbidity which we all are facing in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very important contribution to this session.
My name is Parul Sheth, and I'm coming from an organization, grassroots organization in Gujarat. We work with underprivileged children and youth living in the slum communities. I am hearing the importance of sports in the healthy and holistic development, and we totally endorse it. The challenges that we face at the grassroots, particularly in the slums in urban areas, and our children have they underwent a research and they identified that there are no spaces available for children. So that is one major challenge, because even if they want to play and they really enjoy playing, there are hardly any spaces in the slums of urban areas. Even in the schools, there are hardly any grounds. Most of the schools in the which are situated in the slums do not have the school playground where the children can play. There are no sport teachers who may teach them, and there are no facilitators, or there are no they don't get any exposure where they can get opportunity to learn and play. So ultimately, because they don't get all this opportunity, they end up playing either something which is just around their houses, where there is not so much of physical activity, but it is more into terms of like gambling and other stuff. So it is by not, like we as society are not providing them the opportunity to this kind of exposure and pushing them towards physical inactivity, because I believe and I assume that all children and youth love to play if they get opportunity. But unfortunately, as society, we are not providing them in their communities and in their schools.
I would request Dr. Shroff to share her experience as to how she has seen the community youth overcome this challenge, and then we would request Dr. Pulakal as well to share his views.
I think you are right in saying that it is difficult. I think some of the people who have attended this conference have also talked to me about how they've managed to overcome this by having kind of even indoor spaces where children can engage in a good amount of physical activity. So I come from Mumbai, which where there are just high-rise buildings and there's very little space, and people care more about having a parking space for their cars than a space for their children to play, which is kind of unfortunate. But I think that there is some way that we can, definitely there needs to be more policy for this, but I think there is some way that we can kind of work around this, and children will, like Dr. Sharma has said, children will figure out a way to play as long as they have the right tools in some sense, and if they are encouraged to use their imagination in some way that is kind of physically active. But there has to be some I think encouragement from adults, and there has to be some policy change as well.
I think this is absolutely a difficult problem, and this is one of the areas where the individual themselves need help from the community and especially the government, for instance. This whole aspect of enabling environment, which is something that individual might be looked at as breaking the law or doing the wrong thing if they go ahead and seek to find a place to play on their own. In the Pacific, there are some islands that are so small that you cannot have a tennis court or forget about a rugby field. I mean, that's how small the island is. I mean, the road is just enough, and then there's the sea on one side and then the sea on the other side. But they have a little airfield, and I know of 2 islands, because when there is no flight coming in, then the community is allowed to go there and play in the airfield. And the other thing they do in one of the islands there, because there is not enough water, and they don't have enough, and they have used the runway to catch the water and drain it to some tank or something, and then clean it up and use it. So there are some solutions, though it is difficult. But I quite agree that it is an area, a policy area, and this is something that we have to be more imaginative. But I think that the point that is being raised here, children, us, we are born to play actually. And they will find a way, but I think it will be easier and safer if the rest of us help them to find that way.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we'll have to close the session, though the discussions are very, very engaging and interesting. But at this point, I would like to thank the speakers.
There's a question on Twitter, I think she wants...
Okay.
There are several people watching this entire program on live streaming, and one of them has a question for the panel. His name is Iman, he's my colleague from Hyderabad. I want to know what can be done to include physical activities at the workplace, as most of us sit in front of computers for 10 hours and then find no motivation for any other activity.
Dr. Shroff wants to answer that.
Actually, there have been some studies done abroad, but also in India, more and more I think corporate spaces are aware of this or becoming aware of this. One of the biggest changes that I think will happen in maybe the next 15 years or so is that we'll no longer be sitting and working on computers, we'll be standing and working on computers. And the minute you're standing, again there's a huge change in physiological things that happen inside your body. So if we are standing for kind of a good part of the day instead of sitting, it changes how food is metabolized in your body and all of that. So that's one of the big changes. But I think more and more there are a lot of organizations that are aware of this, and what they do is that they will have kind of a table tennis table set up during lunchtime on one part of their canteen area or something like that, which may not be a huge thing, but it may still be, or people will take a walk around the building in which they are working just after lunch or just before lunch. So some of these are smaller changes that companies are kind of encouraging their employees. The other thing is through health insurance. Companies tell their employees that if they meet certain, like they are able to reduce their blood pressure or they are able to do any of those things, then kind of they get benefits in terms of their health insurance or in terms of the bonus that they might receive at the end.
I just want to add one point. There are several countries in the Pacific actually have made it regulations that every Friday, an hour before the end of the work on Friday, is they allow they pay. I mean, they're not taking the salaries off, but the workers are allowed to do physical activity. So there are some other ways like that is being utilized.
So, thank you everyone, and I would like to just conclude this session by saying that probably the take home is we understand that sports can be promoted among youth and other population as health promoting behavior by the 3 E's. We have to make sports and physical activity entertaining. We have to engage the youth so that they are interested and they are left on their own, then also they want to be physically active, and we have to empower them by providing opportunities. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Dr. John. Thank you, Hemal. Thank you, Dr. Puloka. And thank you, the audience, for being so engaging. I know